Sonic Lab TV.
Hello, welcome to another special product presentation. We've got Luke Edwards from Korg UK, who's come in to show us the brand new Korg Krome Workstation.
Indeed. Shall we have a listen?
Yes, let's have a listen. We'll start off with a bit of playing. Right, so there's obviously a bit of sequencing and piano going on there.
Yeah.
Perhaps you could just explain what the Krome is, sort of primarily.
Sure. The Krome is our brand new workstation, and it comes in 3 sizes. So this is the 61 key version.
Yep.
It's also available in 73 notes, which is still synth action like this one, and also an 88 key weighted keyboard as well.
Has it got aftertouch?
No aftertouch. No, it hasn't got aftertouch. And the 88 key version is based on the SP170, which is another one of our models. That's the same action.
So if you could take us through the kind of panel and the connections, that would be great.
Sure, yeah. Okay, so we've got the pitch bend mod wheel here.
Oh, it's got lights behind it.
Yeah, nice lights.
Can you change the colour?
No, you can't, unfortunately. Oh. You've also got switches, assignable with lights as well. Moving on across the panel, real-time control knobs.
That's like the parameter matrix.
Yeah, exactly. And then here we've got the ARP switch, drum track, effects switch, so you can kill your effects if you want to record dry. Media accesses the SD card, and global is for just your global parameters like MIDI functions and so on. We've got the touch view interface in the middle. The touch screen.
I noticed you're using your fingernail there. Is it?
I am.
That's the thing with touch screens; they can be a bit.
Yeah, if you want to be really precise, use your nail, or a stylus, of course, you can use. But for bigger sort of parameters, you can just touch with the end of your finger. It's fine.
Right.
So, moving across them, you've got the data wheel for changing sounds, and then a keypad for entering numeric values. And these buttons here are very important because they determine which mode you're working in, whether it's program mode, combi mode, or sequence. And these are your banks, so you can select your sounds that way, and of course your transport controls for your sequencer, and the tempo control with the tap tempo.
And round the back?
Round the back, we have the power switch, left and right, jack outs.
Only 2 outputs, right?
Only 2 outputs, yeah, stereo. You've got a damper control, and also a switch and a pedal input, so you can use a volume pedal.
Right,
yeah.
Okay.
And of course, customary MIDI in and out. And then your SD card slot.
Can you access the MIDI I/O over USB?
You can't. It's one or the other. So you use your USB or you use your MIDI, your physical MIDI in and out.
But the sequencer outputs to the MIDI.
The sequencer outputs to that anyway, so you can output your data that way. And of course, you've got your USB port as a MIDI port, so you can connect it to your computer very easily. Use this as a controller. And what it's really designed for is to use with the editor software.
Oh, can we have a look?
Yeah, of course.
So what's this running in? This is in Logic, right?
This is in Logic. It's working at the moment like an audio unit. And obviously you can edit all the stuff on screen. But what's nice is that anything I do on the keyboard, like the real-time controllers, for instance, I can move them.
Oh, they update.
And they update instantly. And if
does it make editing a little bit easier, do you find?
Much easier, because you've got more information on the screen at any one time, and it's a little bit more visual, as you can see from all the you can see all the waveforms of the LFOs, for instance, and
this runs as a standalone as well, right?
Standalone, yeah, as well, if you want to.
So I noticed that Krome with a KR, we're thinking, oh, Kronos. What are there any similarities? Because I mean, what are the similarities and differences?
There are some similarities. First of all, we've taken some of the core sounds from the Kronos and brought them into the Krome. So, for instance, the nice German sampled grand piano, we've got exactly the same samples here. We've got some of the same electric pianos as well, and a couple of drum kits and some other sounds. The main difference between this and the Kronos is on the Kronos, you have the whole audio side. So you have the sampler, you have the audio tracks in the sequencer and so on. So you don't have that here, but you just have a great sound palette to draw from.
What about synthesis functions? Because obviously the Kronos has those discrete synthesis engines.
It
Do we
does,
get any
yes.
of that in this?
No, it's all based around one engine, which is derived from the actually the Korg M3, which was our flagship before the Kronos. So it's still a very powerful sound engine, but it is only the one engine as opposed to the 13.
Right.
that we have in
Okay.
the Kronos.
So the piano, I mean, they're kind of very big on that. I mean, what?
Yeah.
How much sample RAM has it got? For
In
that?
total, it's got 4 gigabytes, which is a massive upgrade from the M50, which was only 256 megabytes.
Right.
And quite a large part of that is taken up by some of the core sounds, like the pianos and electric pianos. So the piano itself, I think, is 2.8 gigs.
Oh, right.
Just
so,
for that sound. So
and
it's
that's
a fully
presumably multi-sampled.
multi-sampled, eight levels, 8 velocity layers per note, and every single note sampled.
Can we have a listen to the
Yep.
piano itself?
So this is called the Krome grand piano. So you get that really nice sustained decay without that looping that you sometimes get with sampled pianos.
Are there other piano types in there as well, acoustic pianos? I mean, obviously, not everybody wants to play a grand and everything.
Yeah,
I mean, you've got
absolutely.
some uprights and things
Yeah,
like
there's
that as
lots
well.
of things to navigate the sounds. Category at the top, and then we can go and jump to subcategory actually and see all the acoustic pianos, and they're all different. So some of them are kind of bright pianos, or more mellow ones, or more live sounding, so a little bit brighter, or an acoustic piano, for example, or there's lots of different uprights. So a little bit of a thinner sound.
Yeah.
Which sometimes can fit in the mix even better. So
Perhaps we could have a look at a couple of electric pianos. I did hear them in the warm-up, and they sounded quite nice.
Yeah,
as
so
well.
let's go on to the next sound, which is an electric piano. What I like about it is that these knobs here make it very easy to manipulate the sound. So for instance, knob 4 is pretty much always reverb. So we can dial some reverb in very easily. And this one is usually an insert effect, whichever one we've chosen to use. So in this case, it's a phaser. So we can dial that effect in if we want it. And lots of different velocity layers per sound as well. So if you really dig into the key, you can hear the timbre changing, as you would expect. Every single sound you come to will have a drum track pattern associated with it. So it's like having a drum machine built in. So all you have to do is press that button, and then you'll have a drum groove ready to go.
And can you change what that drum track is?
Yeah, you can. So if I go into my mixer and drum tab here, it shows me the pattern and also the kit. So I'm free just to change that, and there's literally hundreds of these patterns.
Can you add your own as well?
You can add your own. You can use the presets, but you have the user area where you can make your own, and of course choose then the drum kit to fit.
So I remember on the previous on the R3 and M50, there was actually quite a lot of kind of real time. Right, I like this. Let me just make a song with it. I mean, is that kind of the following on that same sort of idea?
That's definitely the vibe here. Yeah. So let's go for something else, and I'll show you how easy that is. So say for instance, we get this bass synth up. So I've got my drum track. So I've got a drum pattern with it. I've also got an arpeggiator. So let's turn that on in conjunction with the drum track. Maybe tweak out the sound a bit with these real-time controls. So I'm feeling that as I like to record it. So it's literally a case of hitting record. And it actually asks you, set it to record, are you sure? So you can always cancel, but you say OK in this case. Takes it straight into the sequencer with that same tempo and those same sounds. So on track 1, it's giving me that synth, and on track 2, the kit.
Right.
And it's armed those tracks automatically, and I'm literally ready to record.
Right.
2, 3, 4. Recording.
It's recording that controller stuff
the
as well.
automation as well, yeah. So now I've captured that, I can play it back. So at any time, whether you're in program mode or combi mode, you can just hit record and you capture that idea.
Show me a little bit more about the synthesis engine as well, because one of the questions that came in via Facebook, thanks folks, was you know, what I want to, how deep is the synthesis?
Yeah, okay. Let me show you a couple of things first. I'll show you how the sounds are structured. So there we are. So each program, all the single sounds are called programs in the Krome, are made up of 2 oscillators. And if I go to the mixer page, you can see the two oscillators here. Beyond that, you're going into the page button here, and then you see all the basic building blocks of your sound.
So we've got controllers, pitch, filter.
And very much like, you know, M50, M3, that kind of architecture. This is your kind of oscillator page, if you like. You've got 8 velocity levels that you can use different samples for. Beyond that, you've got your filter. So, and it has all these different tabs to show you the parameters, including the envelope.
Right.
So you have 2 filters.
Amplitude and pitch envelope
as
well.
And again, because of this touchscreen, you get some nice visual things to show you actually what you're doing. So if you're changing the ADSR, for example, you can actually see a visual representation of it, which is kind of nice. You've got two
LFOs per oscillator, right?
No, I think these are shared actually. LFO1 is LFO1, and then you've got a common LFO. So you've got 3 LFOs, I think, in total. Okay.
And what about effects? What's going on with effects?
Effects, I can show you on that same page here. Look, so you've got your routing insert effects. So you've got 5 what we call insert effects, which can be used in any way. They can be used completely in parallel or serial, or a combination of each. But then on top of that, you have 2 master effects, which are like sends. Right. So generally used for things like reverb, delay, chorus. Sure. And then you've got 1 total effects, as we call it, which is like a mastering type of effect.
So we've had a listen to some of the pianos and stuff. I mean, is there a more orchestral and strict? Because Korg have always been quite good on the string side of things.
Yeah,
I mean,
let's go into some of the categories of sounds. So let's go into some strings. I really like this string sound because it's got quite a heavy attack. So if you really dig into the keys, you really hear the strings on the bows, kind of thing, for this sort of thing. So you can get that kind of effect. And each category has lots of different variations.
Drum kits, I mean, because obviously, you know, a lot of the stuff is based, I mean, we heard that kind of studio kit with the blend. I mean, is there, what's going on in the drum category?
Drums, you've got a couple of nice drum kits taken from the Kronos, so one of the ones which I showed you, but then of course you've got all your dance kits as well. So you've got your kind of classic 808, 909 type kits, so hip hop type kits.
Can you affect individual sounds within the kit?
Yes.
Can you kind of get down to that level of editing?
You can, yeah. What you do is you select your kit, and then you go into global actually, and then within global, you've got a drum kit editor, which allows you to select any note, basically any drum, and then it shows you all the samples that it's made up of, and then you're free to go in and change any of those samples, change the breakpoints of the velocity splits, change the sample itself just by bringing in a list here.
Oh, right, okay.
So you can literally go in deep, and you can make your own kits then that way. So if you like the snare from one kit and the kick from another, for instance, you can just go and definitely...
I guess actually one thing we need to cover, I mean, what's the polyphony? Because obviously with all of this power, you know, it's very easy to run out of voices, particularly if you're running it with a sequencer, I guess. Yeah,
the polyphony is 120 notes.
Right, okay.
So, and that's 120 notes, 120 oscillators, if you like. So if your sound is made up of 2 oscillators, then that's 2 notes you're using.
Right.
So that's just something to bear in mind. And of course, not all the sounds use 2 oscillators. Some of them do, some of them don't. So it's just depends which sound you're using.
Obviously, in sequencer mode, what kind of level of granularity for editing can you get into? Because we've got the touchscreen. So I mean, how deep can we go?
I can show you. So this little thing that we recorded earlier. Yeah. I've gone into the sequence now and shown me this sequence, and let's have a listen. So there it is. So if we want to see in more detail what's involved with that and what we recorded, press page, and then we can press touch track edit on the screen. and it shows us a kind of a little overview of what we've done. So we can see we've recorded some synths on track 1 and bass on, and the drums on track 10. If I go to track view, we can see it more in a kind of data kind of format. If we want to see like a piano roll type view, just press the little magnifying glass, and then we can see it here. So let's zoom in, because obviously it's not very usable at that magnification level. And we can go straight in and see our piano roll.
And can you then move them around and all that?
Yeah, it's all draggable, so we can drag our note, take it there. We can grab a velocity, change it.
Right.
We can, what else can we do? We can lengthen notes.
Perhaps not something that you'd want to sort of orchestrate a concerto with.
Absolutely, yeah. But handy for little edits, like getting rid of odd notes here and there and changing little velocities. And for people who prefer to compose this way, you can use the pencil to put in notes.
So you can do sort of steps.
Exactly, yeah. You can erase as well the same way.
So we recorded some controller information in there as well.
Yes.
I mean, can we get to that?
Yeah, that was cut off, which is CC74. So all we have to do is dial this value up to 74, and we should see it hopefully in the grid below. So we keep going. 74. There it is. So there it is. Plus, you can actually change the way this is showed. So you can see it as drum notation if you want.
Oh god, yeah, that takes you back to Cubase.
Exactly, yeah. Which sometimes is obviously more relevant because you don't necessarily need to know the lengths of the events.
No.
You just want to see the hits.
So we've looked at program mode and sequencer mode. I mean, obviously Combi Mode. How many parts, etc. That sort of thing.
So Combi Mode is basically a collection of 16 programs in one place, and you can see 8 on the screen at any one time. So you just have to tab across to see the second 8.
Right.
So, for instance, that first tune that I played with the piano and all the drums going and everything, that's made up of 5 parts in a combi. So 2 parts you can hear me playing, which is the piano and the strings layered. And then the other 3 parts are automated using the drum track, and we have 2 arpeggiators in Combi Mode as well. So you have the drum track, and then you have the arpeggiators as well, which is a bass part. Nice kind of synth lead line. So that's using 5 parts, but you have up to 16 at your disposal, which you can use exactly how you want. And they can be layered on top of each other, or they can be split into different zones, or a combination of both of those.
And how does the effect structure work? Do you still retain the effects, the insert effects for the programs into the combi, or is it?
You've got the same amount of effects I showed you earlier. So those 5 inserts, the 2 sends, and the total effects are shared over the 16 parts.
Right.
So you have to compromise a little bit with your effects in Combi Mode. So you have to decide how you want to use those inserts over the 16 parts.
And can you get the zoning to work in terms of MIDI output? So if you've got a combi, for instance, will they transmit on separate MIDI channels, so you could run external gear on different MIDI channels?
Absolutely,
in different
yeah.
zones?
If you go to an initialized combi, by default, it'll be channels 1 to 16. So I just go to page, timbre parameter, and it shows me 1 to 8.
So it outputs those from the keyboard. So you could use it as a master keyboard.
You could, yeah. And you decide then whether you want to trigger internal sounds or external sounds, or both, essentially. So there's different ways you can use the combi. I'll show you a couple of examples. So what we've got here is...
your famed Kashmir demo.
Yeah. You might have seen this elsewhere. So it's basically a few layers of different sounds. So it's like strings, guitars, bass down the bottom, some horns at the top, and then using the drum track to give me a drum pattern, basically. So you can see.
I've always wondered about that.
Yeah.
Is it actually in an odd time signature?
It must be, because
it goes
that's a
around the 4/4, but you're playing something over that.
Yeah,
right.
It must be, because the drum track is in 4/4 straight, and it never seems to fit with what's going on. So
right,
yeah.
I always wondered that.
I've used a preset, so I suppose I could have programmed my own drum track to fit properly.
He does a little push, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's like yeah. But it makes it interesting. So another idea we had here was I stacked 2 synth sounds together at different pitches. So just by playing a single note, I can get my harmony going on with the drum track as well. So Combi Mode is ideal for that kind of thing because it just makes it easy to be flexible about what you want to do. So you can stack sounds together or play them at different pitches or in different zones or really however you want to do it.
And how many programming locations are we talking about? There used to be 99 and 99, I remember. So.
Okay, there's a few more than that now. You've got, in program mode, you've got six banks.
6 banks of
128.
Right.
But the sixth bank is all blank because they're the initialised ones made for your own. But then you've got your general MIDI sounds on top. So you've got a lot there. And then in Combi Mode, same idea with the banks, but you've got 3 banks of presets.
Oh, is there a general MIDI chip in here as well?
There is.
Top of,
yeah.
Okay.
So, of course, that makes it good for anyone who's working with MIDI files because you can stick your MIDI file on an SD card, bring it in, and it'll automatically just play.
So that's for your kind of entertainer and performers.
Yeah.
Obviously, pricing is an issue. I mean, where does this fit into the kind of general pricing structure of this kind of stuff?
It sits quite nicely price-wise. The 61 key version, which is the one we've got here, that's $799 street price.
Right.
But the other version's obviously a little bit more expensive. So you've got the 73 note one, which is $949, and the 88 key fully weighted one is $1,249.
So is this something you want to play us out with, and we can say goodbye, and then we can walk off into the sunset while you play us a demo?
Yeah, very slick. Okay, so I'll show you one of the combis that we haven't looked at so far, which is an orchestral one. And I've got the drum track working as well, so I can play the Indiana Jones theme tune if you like.
Right, okay. Luke Edwards, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'll leave you to it.
Cheers.